Hi everyone, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good day for all of you. And here is my second part of the presentation about saving, investment, and the market for loanable funds. After fully equipped with knowledge about saving and investment, the interaction between saving and investment in a closed economy is represented in the market for loanable funds. Saving is a source of loanable fund supply since it is an extra income that is not spent by both household and government. On the other hand, demand for loanable funds comes from households and firms who wish to borrow the funds to make a private investment. Bear it in mind, demand here is for private investment. So when government demand funds for doing government investment, it will only affect the G, then affect the public saving, and then the national saving is obviously affected, and thus eventually what will be affected is the supply of loanable fund. Okay. Demand and supply in the market for loanable funds are diagrammed like this. They change with the change in real interest rate or the nominal interest rate that has been corrected for inflation. Demand will be negatively corrected with real interest rate since a lower interest rate means lower cost of borrowing for investment. As a result, lower interest rate, okay, will increase the demand for loanable funds. On the other hand, real interest rate is also the incentive for lender or saver. The higher the interest rate, the more willing the savers to lend their funds. And as in other market, equilibrium occurs at the intersection of demand and supply curve, right? At certain level of the real interest rate and certain amount of loanable funds. Now, let us try to answer these following problems. Okay, look at the questions. Economists in Finlandia, closed economy, have collected the following information. So we have this information from the problem, and also the economists estimate that the investment function is given like this. When R is the real interest rate expressed as a percentage, and this is the question. Right? We are asked to find private saving, public saving, national saving, investment, and equilibrium interest rate, equilibrium real interest rate. So we can begin calculating the private saving, okay, from the information. And of course, it's better to write first the formula. Private saving is always equals to Y minus T minus C, and all the informations are given here. Y is 10,000. Text T is 500 and C is 6,000. All right, so obviously we're gonna have 2,500 here. Okay, and how about the public saving? Public saving is defined as the difference between tax and government spending, and also we have the information. Tax is given by this number, and G is 700. All right, so we have the budget deficit of this country, which is minus, okay, the deficit is 200, or the saving of or the public saving is minus 200. Okay, and then how about the national saving? National saving is just the summation of private and public saving, right? So it equals to 500, since it is minus, so just write like this, right? Minus 200, it equals to 2,000 and 300. Okay, and how about the investment and the equilibrium real interest rate? In closed economy, the equilibrium will give us this conditional equation, right? investment is always equals to saving, and we already know the saving, the national saving, right, which is 2,300. So investment will be 2,300, and it is also equals to this expression, right? So from this we can find the uh, interest rate. So 100R equals to 2000, right? So R here is very easy to obtain, which is the division of 2000 with 100. It will be 20. Since it is said that it is in percentage, so R is 20%. So if you draw the diagram here, the real equilibrium interest rate here, it is equals to 20%. All right. And supply and demand for loanable funds are the same. It equals to L bar here, which is equals to 2,300. Let's now talk about saving and investment incentives. So as you may easily read here, this is how the incentives are given for saving and investment. And we'll be talking about crowding out later. Now let's get back to this curve, this diagram, all right, showing the interaction between supply of a loanable fund and demand for loanable fund. And here is the initial equilibrium level for interest rate and loanable funds. And if saving incentives are given, okay, since savings are the main source of the supply of loanable fund in this market, so when the incentives are given, it will definitely affect the supply curve. All right. So when incentives are given, here's what's going to happen. Okay. Look, supply curve shift to the right, meaning that at every level of real interest rate, now loanable fund supply are higher. All right. So with the shift of this supply curve to the right, so the equilibrium will be different, right? We're gonna have the new equilibrium level. So here is the new intersection between supply and demand curve. So real interest rate is getting lower. On the other hand, the amount of loanable funds are now getting higher in the new equilibrium position. Similar to saving incentive, investment incentive, of course, will affect one of the curves here. Since we know that investments is the source of demand for loanable fund. So what's going to be affected by the incentives will be the demand curve. Okay, so when the investment incentives given, there will be a shifting of the demand for loanable fund to the right like this, and also the interpretation is quite similar. It means that at every level of real interest rate, the demand for loanable funds are now higher. Okay, and of course with the shift of the demand curve, there will be new equilibrium position here, right? The intersection between the supply curve and the new demand curve, resulting in higher level of real interest rate. Okay, and higher level of loanable fund, yeah, amount of loanable fund as well. Okay, now let's talk about the crowding out effect. And you may look at the definition here. Crowding out effect is a decrease in private investment, all right, that results from government borrowing to finance its budget deficit. So look at the keywords here. Okay, private investments decreases because of the government is running the budget deficit. All right, so now let's take a look at the diagram here. What will be affected by the budget deficit? As we already know, right, when there is a budget deficit, it means that the public saving, right, public saving, SG, is now lower. All right. When SG is lower, meaning that the national saving will be lower as well. So look at the diagram. Since national saving is the main source of the supply of loanable funds, so when saving is lower, so supply of the loanable funds will be lower as well. Okay, so look, there is a shifting of the supply curve of loanable fund to the left, meaning that at every level of real interest rate, now the loanable funds will be lower. And here, so where is the crowding out? Look at again the definition. Because of the uh, government budget deficit that lower the national saving in the market, it is reflected by the increase in real interest rate equilibrium. All right. So interest rate, the equilibrium of real interest rate is now here at R prime. Okay. It results in what? It results in smaller demand, okay, for loanable funds or smaller level of private investment. Okay, so this lower level of investment because of the higher level of real interest rate coming from the budget deficit, that's what we call crowding out effect. Okay, so this is the magnitude of the crowding out effect. So that's all from me. Thank you for the attention. See you again in the next topic of the introduction to macroeconomics. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good day everyone.